Iranian authorities detained prominent actress Taraneh Alidoosti after she voiced support for the nationwide anti-government demonstrations. Now, Alidoosti posted a photo of herself on Instagram without a headscarf with a sign reading "Woman, Life, Freedom," one of the main slogans of the anti-regime protests. A statement from the judiciary released by Iran's official news agency said that several celebrities had been summoned over, quote, unsubstantiated comments about recent events and publishing provocative material in support of the, quote, street riots, and that some of those celebrities were even detained. The actress is best known for starring in the movie The Salesman, which won an Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film in 2016. Let's bring in I-24 News correspondent Pia Steckelbach live for us in studio. Pia, good morning. Tell us the latest about this actress as well as high-profile figures being arrested in these anti-regime demonstrations.
Well, good morning, Hamda. She's only one of the many people who have been detained and arrested and persecuted in the wake of the protests that are now, by the way, entering their third month already. But there's, as you mentioned, quite some attention on her because she is one of the most famous actors in Iran, and she's also quite well known abroad for winning multiple awards, as you mentioned, for that, specifically for that film The Salesman, that won an Oscar for the best foreign language movie in 2017. So she is quite well known in Iran but also abroad. Now, as you mentioned, she criticized basically the death penalty that the state is using against the protesters. That was basically her last Instagram post that she managed to publish. It was dedicated to the young man that was actually executed by the regime last week. By the way, we already know of 2 people that were executed by the regime for their involvement in the protests as of now. Before, this actress had already, as you mentioned, posted another picture where she also wrote that slogan, "Women, Life, Freedom," and that picture also showed her without a hijab. And we know that as a woman, if you're in Iran and you go out without a hijab, that can also already get you in prison. Now, this specific image showing her without her hijab and with that slogan received 1 million likes, and her general followership is about 8 million. So she really has a voice and she can influence people. As of now, we don't know where she is. We don't know to which prison she's been brought. We don't know what circumstances she's in. We don't know about the stage of her trial. But, you know, her arrest basically indicates that the regime is now trying to target celebrities whom they believe have, of course, a wider influence on people. And there is, for example, also a press photographer who has been a former member of the Iranian national rowing team. He was recently sentenced to 7 years in prison. He also received a ban on leaving the country for 74 years, basically until the end of his life. And he also got lashes as a punishment. People now think that these are, of course, sham trials, if you can even call them trials. Let's call them sham punishments for people who actually have some public attention on them.
And Pia, the protests, as we said, entering their third months. What are some of the latest developments from this?
Well, we know that there are already 2 young men who have been executed for their involvement in the revolution, if we can call it a revolution. I think we can. One of them is Majid Reza Rahanvard. He was only 23 years old, and he was publicly hanged from a crane last week in the city of Mashhad. The week before, it was Mohsen Shekari. He was the same age, and he was also hanged, and he was the first person that happened in Tehran. He was the first person who was actually executed by the regime for their involvement in the protests. Basically, we know that Iran has one of the highest numbers when it comes to death penalties in the world, but these people were really the first, and as far as we know, the only ones who were executed for their involvement in the protest. You know, they are sentenced for what the Islamic regime calls enmity against God. This is what they're sentenced for, basically. But what is specifically cruel is that in both cases, the families were not informed that their sons are going to be executed. Actually, in both cases, they objected to the sentence, to the prison sentence, and one of the mothers could actually visit her son before the execution happened, and we saw a picture of her smiling because she thought, okay, the objection is going to be successful. She was hopeful. The next morning she woke up to the news that her son had already been executed. Of course, there are many more people who are currently now facing the death sentence. There are many more people in Iranian prisons right now. Since this wave of protests started about 3 months ago, there are 550 people who already died. And we know that there are about 20 people who are now facing their death sentence, and there are about 20,000 people arrested in Iran right now.